I want to welcome you all to the one-on-one training as a revenue stream part of the presenter series. This is number 6 in the presenter series. Now after this session, Danny and I are going to take a couple weeks break and hope you all have a great holiday season. We'll be back after the holidays in January to continue this with another 2 parts on turning your presentations into a product. We'll discuss how to take that presentation and record it, use Camtasia, and then turn it into a physical product that you can later sell down the road. So we're going to talk about that in January. But for tonight, what we're going to talk about is working with clients one-on-one. Some of the benefits that we're going to talk about tonight for both you and your client. Even though you're a small one-person business, you can expand your reach out worldwide. Now, as an education specialist, we're few and far between, and out there in Australia and New Zealand and in Europe, they're still looking for people to help them get online. In fact, the other day I had a conversation with a fellow in Australia, and we were talking on Skype, and he said, Cindy, you know, you guys are so happening, but we're still so far behind in what's going on. It's really great to be able to talk to you, even though you're on the other side of the world. So you'll be able to expand your reach and meet new clients. Of course, there's flexible scheduling as well. By using one-on-one consulting, you can bend for your clients as well as your own schedule. You can record the sessions for later playback, which is kind of nice if you are going to give this to the client. We all know that clients, you know, when you're giving a presentation or you're talking to somebody, they average about 10% retention. So having a recording for later playback, they can check and you know, re-watch the session later on and get more out of what you're consulting. And of course, you can share screens with your clients as well. You can look over your client's shoulder so that they can have like a sensory experience of actually doing the software that you're working with, or you can just simply see where they're going and where they're making mistakes if there seems to be a problem, or it might be just that they want to watch you as you go through the motions of using the software. So those are great reasons why you might want to share a screen. So what we're going to talk about tonight is the software that you need to use for one-on-one consulting. We're going to talk about tips with working with clients, and then we're going to talk a little bit about pricing formulas and some about business models. What we're going to talk about tonight is Citrix products, the GoToMeeting product. We're also going to talk about Skype. And then we're going to also talk about DimDim. These are screen sharing software packages. Really quickly, let's talk about the hardware you need. I know we've talked a lot about the hardware that you need throughout the presenter series, so go back and refer to some of the other podcasts if you're still not sure. But for one-on-one consulting, you really don't need much more than a computer to work with a client these days. A headset or microphone and you know, some way to hear the audio, speakers. Or if you want to do video, you want to show people your beautiful smiling face, then you're probably going to want a webcam as well. And webcams these days are built into most computers. So that's pretty much it for the hardware needs for consulting with a client one-on-one. So let's talk or take a tour of these 3 different software applications that you can use when you are consulting with a client. Start with Skype. Skype is a fairly easy to use VoIP service. That stands for Voice over Internet Protocol. This allows you to talk just like you're talking on a phone, or if you want to use it as a camera phone, you and your viewers can see each other. You can also use Skype as a conference call, the conference call feature where you have several people who can talk together. For a Skype to Skype call via the internet, it's free. You just simply download the software, and it's free to use as long as you have a mic and speakers. One drawback that I found for Skype is that many U.S. clients are kind of slow to adopt this technology. You know, even for Skype being an eBay company, a lot of eBayers are pretty resistant to using Skype, so you'll have to get them to go ahead and try to use it. That's one of the drawbacks to using Skype. But it is free if you just want to have your client set up a Skype to Skype meeting. You don't have to worry about any pay for models. However, if you like using it like I do, I prefer to use it as all my phone calls. Whenever I consult with a client, I just put my headset on and I have my hands free. And I like using Skype, so I will dial or call their phone numbers. And when you start doing that, you're going to end up paying a little bit. If you are consulting in the United States, it's going to cost you $1.95 a month. You buy it in a year-long contract, or you can pay as you go per minute. You can buy Skype credits. You can also get an international plan if you have a lot of clients outside the USA. That's going to cost you $9 a month, and that's when you dial their phone number. Again, if you have international clients, you may want to just use the Skype to Skype service where you use each other's IDs and call directly instead of bringing the phone company into it. And again, that is free. A little known feature of Skype is called the Skype Prime services. Now, to find the Skype Prime service, you would go under your account on your Skype dashboard and click on that Skype Prime beta service. Now, a pop-up box will appear, and it will allow you to list your service on the worldwide directory that Skype has. So you'll have quite a bit of exposure for your services. Now, you can set up your service by simply clicking on one of those change buttons, and it will ask you to start setting up the name of your service, what type of service it is. You can also change how you want to bill for the service. In other words, per minute or one-off. So you could say you want $1 a minute, or you want to do $30 per session. Whichever way works for you is fine. And then you just save changes, and you can accept your payments through PayPal, so that you can just set it up with PayPal. Just put your email address into PayPal, and at the end of the conversation, when you're done with the consulting, PayPal Skype will go ahead and automatically bill your client on your behalf and collect the funds. How it works is when you accept a payment or a client through Skype, you may not know them, and they will contact you, they'll call you, and you can both agree that you'll be billing for the service, and there is a button on your Skype screen that says start the billing. Your recipient will receive a pop-up box saying, this is a billable call, are you willing to accept the charges? Just like the old phone company when you were doing a collect call. And when they accept the charges, the billing starts just like you were getting into a taxi cab if you're doing it per mile, but with us it might be per minute, and the meter starts ticking, and Skype and PayPal take care of all the billing. So it's kind of a nice little built-in feature. It's called Skype Prime. Another feature of Skype is the group call. We've used it at the Web Seller Circle for recording sessions with several people when we're doing training. So it's it's a nice little feature. You know, everybody who's on Skype, you could just grab their user IDs and have them all on the phone at once. So it's like a conference call, and it works really smoothly. Even for if you're consulting with one company, oftentimes one company will have a bunch of people in their offices, and they may want to be at their own desk at their own computer, and with a group call like this, they can listen in on their own phone or their own headset and be more comfortable, or they could do it in a more conference-like setting. Either way, but it does give your client a little bit more flexibility. As you can see, these can be private group chats or they can be public group chats as well. One thing about Skype that I'd like to mention is once you set up Skype, you're going to start getting a lot of instant messages and some phone calls that are kind of, well, I'd call them junk phone calls. And you probably want to set up your privacy settings fairly quickly. Now, to do that, you go into the File and click on Privacy, and this pop-up box will show up. And you can change your setting from allow anybody to contact you to only allow people in my contact list to contact me. Then people will have to send a request to become one of your contacts before they can send you those junk phone calls on Skype. So do set up your privacy settings. Now, some of the drawbacks to using Skype, the big one for me for Skype Prime is that the payments are held for 4 months. And that's kind of a deal breaker because you can accept payments in a lot of other ways. It is a big drawback. And like I was saying before with Skype, that users and clients have been a little bit slow to adapt, especially here in the United States. Up until recently, Skype had mixed audio quality. We'd get those whooshes and woo-woo sounds during the phone call, and it really did sound like the old VoIP service. But I've noticed in recent times that I've used Skype, it keeps getting better and better, so they are working on the audio quality. Now, on the plus side, Skype is very, very popular outside the United States. So my clients, I'm seeing more and more clients that I'm working with in New Zealand and Australia, and usually the first thing they ask me is, do I use Skype? So Skype in Europe and outside of the United States is an extremely popular service. So you're actually much more likely to get a client if you are willing to use Skype. So there is a big bonus for you for using and learning Skype. And the other one is, for me, is this service called Pamela. Now, Pamela is at www.pamela.biz/en. Now, Pamela is an add-on to Skype. And what I mostly use it for is the recording. Pamela is so easy to use that when you turn Skype on, you call somebody, Pamela pops up and says, do you want this to be recorded? And once you click the yes button, it starts the recording, and at the end of the conversation, when you hang up, it's automatically saved to your computer, and you can find those recordings right in a very simple to navigate menu, and you can forward those off to your clients very, very easily. So it is an extremely simple way to get a high quality recording. In fact, we use Pamela a lot for our recordings. When we were working with Cheryl Schuff this summer making the QuickBooks tutorial, we used Pamela exclusively to get a good high quality recording of the sessions. So I am really happy with Pamela. Now, if you're going to use Pamela for consulting, there is a free version, but Of course, with free, there's limitations, and one of the big limitations is that you can only record up to 15 minutes. So if you're going to use this for consulting, do look into the other packages, the professional or the business. We use the professional package. It pretty much covers everything, and it's a one-time purchase of $30. So it's not a terrible expense for all the services that it offers. There's much, much more to it. There's answering machines and emails and things like that. I don't tend to use those. I use the recording, and I'm really, really thrilled with it. So I think it's well worth the cost. So that's Pamela. And that is talking to your clients via audio with no screencasting, that using Skype and using Pamela as a recording tool. Let's start talking about sharing screens, because this is where things really become dynamic between you and your client. If you can share a screen and see what they're doing, or they can see what you're doing, it really, really helps the experience, the learning experience for your client, and it makes it much easier for you as the presenter or the consultant as well to show your clients some of the things that you're talking about. Now, DimDim is what's called a flash-based program. You use it online. There's nothing that you really download. It's all online. Now, there is a free service or a free part of DimDim, and as a consultant, if you're going to use DimDim as a screen sharing software platform, you probably don't need anything more than the free service. It'll allow you up to 20 attendees to your meeting. So if you've got multiple people in the consult, you'll have plenty of room. They do have some paid for subscriptions as well, and that's if you're thinking about doing presentations or more formal presentations like the kind we do. Then you may want to do the webinar or the DimDim Pro. But again, for just one-on-one consulting, probably the free one is enough. Using DimDim is pretty simple. What you do is you create your account, and once you have your account created, you just look under the General tab and schedule a meeting. Now, you can schedule a one-time meeting, a one-off meeting. You put your date and your time. You can do a repeating meeting, like our classes every Tuesday night. We could set that up to repeat on DimDim. And then you just send out your email to the person who you're wanting to consult with. If you have a document that you want to share with your client, you should have it in PDF form. And if it is in PDF form, then you can just simply upload it to DimDim, and they can download it from DimDim to their computer. Now, here's where DimDim differs from the Citrix products or the GoToMeeting products that I'm going to talk about in a minute. If you want to go to a URL, instead of navigating through your browser where people follow you, you actually type in the URL, and it shows up in this this viewer area for everybody. So it's not showing up. You're not really leaving DimDim to go to another URL. So it makes it a little bit different, but everybody can see it inside the viewer. To change presenters, let's say you're doing a consult with somebody and you want them to take control, you would just navigate to their name, click on it, and then you can see where you would simply come down and make them the presenter, and they have control until you take it back. Now, the software DimDim is actually pretty easy to use, but I am a big fan of Citrix, and I've been using their products for a while now, so I haven't used DimDim much more than to go to a few webinars and to test it out. So I asked Marlene Gavins, the Savvy Seller, if she would help me out a little bit here and help me with some of the tips or techniques that she uses, because she uses DimDim to consult with her clients. And Marlene was very generous in volunteering some really great tips for using DimDim. So without further ado, I am going to pass on some of Marlene's wisdom to you. Her first one is that if you're going to share your computer using DimDim, be sure you've downloaded the program that allows you to do that before you start the meeting with the client. Along with that, be sure to test the system out with a friend before you try it on a client. And that is such great advice. And it doesn't just matter for DimDim. It matters for whatever software you're using. Danny and I, whenever we try to before we try a new piece of software, we try it on ourselves. Janelle and I have been known to be up at midnight trying different applications to make sure they're working before our presentation. So find somebody who'll trial this out for you. Moving on, Marlene's other suggestion is that she hasn't been able to get DimDim to work with Firefox, and that might be because it's a Flash-based system. I'm not really sure, but she finds that she can only share using Internet Explorer. So if you or your client is having a problem and you're using DimDim, the first thing you probably should ask them is, are you using Internet Explorer or are you using Firefox? Again, Marlene isn't sure if it's just her or if it's a general problem with DimDim, but she did want to pass that on. Number 3, DimDim doesn't let you access sites with a password. So if you're going to go onto eBay or one of those other sites, you're going to want to open that up in another window and then share the screen from there. And I think Marlene wrote this tip specifically for me and my avoidance of webcams, because she says if you don't want to be on the webcam, be sure to click the microphone only setting, not the camera and microphone, because so many of us have webcams built into our computers that it'll just instantly put you on webcam. Number 5 is, if you want to have your client show you their computer screen, be ready to with their questions about security, because with DimDim, once you start sharing your computer, they are going to have to download a small piece of software onto their computer. Now this is the same with GoToMeeting as well. Some clients are less hesitant than others about this, but you can reassure your clients that when the session ends, nobody has any access afterwards, and that this software is not invasive and that they are secure. Now there are some tips for how to talk to your clients and assure them that they are downloading a safe piece of software provided by the GoToMeeting people, and we do have that PDF available in the materials section in our GoToMeeting tonight. And Marlene's final tip for us was, while you can schedule your meeting ahead of time, and have your client get an email with the login information, Marlene has found it's easier just to start the meeting and then have the client go to dimdim.com and join the meeting from there, instead of trying to navigate through the emails. And I think that's a very good point. And again, it's not just about DimDim. Sometimes your clients will hesitate when you start talking about screen sharing software, because it sounds very mysterious to them, and they might give you a little bit of pushback. But if you are there and you can coach them while you're on the phone with them and get them to come into your DimDim meeting or your GoToMeeting meeting on the spot, you might have a little bit easier or better luck with that approach. So I want to thank Marlene for taking the time for giving us those great tips on how to use DimDim. So let's talk about the one that I'm familiar with, and that's GoToMeeting. And we have been using GoToMeeting here for several years now, and I'm quite happy with it. clients seem to find that it's fairly easy to use as well. Now, GoToMeeting does all the same things that DimDim does, but there are a few features that I like to use as a consultant, and they include recording the session, using VoIP. In other words, my client doesn't have to pay for a long-distance phone call. They can just dial in if they have a speaker and microphone. There's desktop sharing, which is fantastic for working with clients, especially with those tough applications that they're having problems with. And of course, there's other features that work well with webinar-style meetings, such as the ones we're giving with the presenter series, like screen clean, where if I don't want people to see my icons on my desktop, I can hide those, and recording. There's a chat feature and more. Like I say, there's a chat, and many of you have found it and are very active, and it does make the presentations a lot more beneficial when people can ask and chat with each other. There's drawing tools, there's multiple monitor support, which if you really get going, you're probably going to want to have your client and your GoToMeeting on one screen and other information in the background. Of course, there's Mac support, which we've got a lot of Mac users now. I don't know about DimDim, but it sure is nice to have Mac support for Citrix. And at the end, maybe not so much on a one-to-one consult, but especially for these meetings, it's nice to have a report showing the chat logs, what people were asking. In case I miss what's going on while I'm presenting, I can go back and read through those questions and then answer them if they need to be answered more personally after the meeting, or even find out what people are asking for the next presentation. So having that reporting is kind of nice as well for the GoToMeeting stuff. So to start a GoToMeeting, of course, you're going to want to subscribe, and then you're going to download the software. And when you download it, you'll get a little star icon on your desktop and on your quick start tray. And when you're ready to start a meeting, you just click on that, and it'll ask you, do you want to meet now or schedule a meeting? And as soon as you click on that, you get another one that says, well, did you mean to meet now or schedule a meeting? So you just choose one, and then it will walk you through the process. If you choose to schedule a meeting, you can schedule the time and date, and then a dialog box will pop up allowing you to send out email invitations. Of course, if you're doing it on the spot, you can invite people as soon as you start the meeting. You can send them an automatic, as soon as the meeting is started, you can send them an email, so you can just click on that. Now, when you do start a meeting, you'll notice that you have your client and you will both have the option of either using the telephone or the mics and speakers. This VoIP service is great. Now, if they do decide to use the telephone, they will need to use this access code and PIN number. And if you decide that you just want people to go to GoToMeeting.com and log into your meeting, here is the access code number for the meeting as well, and that's the meeting ID and the access code are usually the same. There is a browser bar here, this pop-out bar here that is on all GoToMeeting interfaces. This is kind of funny, but I'm going to remind you to remind your clients of this, because some things we just sort of take it for granted, and people don't, in the heat of the moment, they don't think or they don't realize what's going on with this desktop sharing stuff. You should remind your clients that they cannot see their box, and you have a unique box to yourself, so that what this box is showing you is different than your client. And if yours is collapsed, you can see the whole desktop, and they can collapse theirs as well. But there is a little bit of confusion about what is being seen on these boxes, and I find clients are a little bit befuddled because they assume that we're both seeing the exact same box and the exact same information. So you might want to remind your clients of that when you get started. This tray also has some mouse tracking and a highlighter feature. And you can also remind your clients that this arrow here collapses this whole pane and gets it out of the way if they are trying to watch something you're doing or they're trying to show you something on their desktop. I found that they get kind of frustrated if it's hidden behind this box. They don't realize that they can collapse this. And you can also tell them that these little dash marks up here indicate when this is collapsed that they can move this box anywhere they want on the screen. So just giving your clients a little heads up on how this display box works really makes the meeting go a little bit smoother. Also, once you're ready to get going, do remember to show your screen. It will not show automatically when you log in as the presenter. You have to tell people that you want, or you tell the software that you want this screen to start showing. So when you're ready, then you toggle on that screen. Now, when you give keyboard and mouse over to somebody else, you're giving keyboard and mouse control to the active screen. So if you are showing your screen, you are the presenter, and you turn your mouse and keyboard over, then your client is going to be moving through your computer screen. So they're going to be using their mouse and keyboard to move through your screen. If you want it to be the other way around, perhaps you want to get onto their computer and move your mouse around, or you want to see what they're doing on their computer, you need to change presenters. Now, in the sample, the blue box is grayed out, and that's because I was the only person on this meeting when I was doing the screen caps. But if there's more than one person on it, this is in blue, and all you do is click on that change presenter. Who you assign the presenter to will get a dialog box asking permission to allow that screen to be shown, and when they accept that, we all start seeing their screen, whether that's one person or a number of people in the presentation. If you want to record this, you're not necessarily going to see the record button on the view. So if you want to record it, what you need to go up and do is go to View and click on Record. And once you click on Record, you get a dialog box up that asks you, do you want to use the GoToMeeting software to record it in the GoToMeeting format for video and audio, or do you want to use your own? Up until recently, we found that the audio and video quality of GoToMeeting was not very good, and we were using Camtasia and Pamela or Audacity to record our presentations. But with every iteration of GoToMeeting, the quality keeps getting better, and we pretty much are darn happy with the service that GoToMeeting provides. It's so simple to use, and the quality is really good enough for showing on the web. So we're really pretty happy with it. So there's nothing wrong with using the built-in recording method now. So once you click on record, again, you have this start recording. So when you're ready to start recording, you just click on this button and it'll start the recording. If you need to get back into those settings, you'll just click on this settings link here and it'll bring up that dialog box again. Okay, so the cost may be a drawback to you just jumping into using GoToMeeting. It starts at $50 a month or $49 a month. But be aware that Citrix is one of those companies that is negotiable. We've been able to tell people that we're quitting And when we do, they come back with us with a better price. And because we do use it, we purchase a yearly or annual membership, we've been able to negotiate down to about $35 a month. So it's not quite as expensive as $50 a month, but it is an investment. But with any business, investing in your business, if it is the right investment, will help your business grow. So to me, it is well worth the investment at what we're paying for it. And I'm looking forward to seeing what GoToTraining is going to, what range it's going to be in when they get out of beta. The upside to using GoToMeeting or the Citrix software is that we have had almost no problem with the software. The problems we have had tend to be on our side, user error. It works great with Macs. It works with Firefox. Google Chrome, as far as I know, and clients find it very simple to use too. The interface is very visual, and it is pretty simple to use. So anybody, even the non-technical, tend to get pretty comfortable with the GoToMeeting or the Citrix software pretty quickly. So that's a definite upside. Let's talk a little bit more about pricing your consulting. First off, I talked a little bit earlier about using Skype Prime as a way to consult, using Skype as your main service. And, holding that funds for 4 months just is really not acceptable to me, especially seeing there are so many other ways that you can accept payment. If you are doing more than just one-on-one consulting, or even if you are doing one-on-one consulting, there are a number of services that are available. We've used Eventbrite. Now, Eventbrite will allow you to sell tickets. So it plugs into Google Payments and PayPal really simply. So you could sell tickets to either your GoToMeeting demonstration or your one-on-one consulting. Here on the West Coast, we have a thing called TeachStreet. It's in Seattle and Portland and San Francisco at this point, but I do know that they are going to expand out. And this is where you can put your classes and your consulting online for local community members to pick up. There's no reason why you can't do this for anybody who wants to, purchase a class from you or a one-on-one consulting. They are hooked up with PayPal as well, so you can charge right through TeachStreet. And just before we started this webinar tonight, I got a message from TeachStreet that they're offering $50 gift certificates. So somebody could purchase a $50 gift certificate, and if you're listed on TeachStreet, somebody else, the recipient, might be able to take advantage of your consulting and use that gift certificate. Of course, you can use a PayPal button, or what I do for my clients is I just send them a PayPal invoice when we're ready to roll. Now, we were talking about Phaedra just a minute ago. She does a lot of one-on-one consulting with Bonanzalers, and she offers it in her booth so people can use set up a Bonanza listing in their booth and offer to pay through there. You can also use eBay, certainly. Dana Crawford, Power Selling Mom, I see that she offers her consulting services through eBay where people can just purchase it like a regular fixed price eBay listing. So there are a number of ways that you can collect payments doing this. Even as a consultant one-on-one. How much should you charge, though? I know that, this is one thing that always kind of perplexes me. They always say charge as much as you can get away with, but what is that, and what is practical? There is a formula that I found that seems to be a pretty good way to figure out a reasonable rate for what you should charge per hour. And it goes like this. Are you going to do consulting full-time? You're going to do it part-time? How much do you expect to make, or how much is your desired annual income from consulting? Then you want to take that and multiply it by 3, and that's to cover your expenses and taxes and things like that. And take that number and divide it by 80. Now, why 80? Because that's a reasonable number of days that you could actually consult per year. Now, I know there's 360 days a year, but you can't reasonably expect that you're going to be consulting every day. And then take that amount and divide that by 8. Now, that's a lot of math, I know, but 8 being the magic number. I know most of us work more than 8 hours a day, but that's really my goal, is to only work about 8 hours a day. So let me show you how we figure this out. So let's say you want an annual income from consulting of $40,000 a year. So you would multiply that by 3 and you'd come up with $120,000. Dividing that by 80, the number of days that you might be able to consult a year, that would give you a $1,500 daily rate. So if somebody wanted to consult with you for the whole day, it would be $1,500. Now, what we're really probably talking about is charging on an hourly basis with a client. And dividing that number by 8, you come up with $187.50 per hour. Now, I know that sounds kind of steep, but that's only $40,000 a year. Well, actually, that's a pretty good salary, but do understand that you do have to cover some of your expenses, and thinking practically about this and doing some math will definitely help you figure out what is an appropriate rate to charge per hour. Now, remember, if you're, when you're figuring your rate out, you have to add in the time that you're going to do email support and pre-screening. I never just accept a client on Heard or on Talk To, I guess you could say. I always talk to them at least 15 minutes on the phone before we start. We usually have to talk 2 or 3 times at least via email, and all of that takes time. And clients, surprisingly, I don't know why, they're really unreasonable about this, but they don't expect to be billed for that. So we have to figure out how we roll that into our hourly rate. Prep time as well. You can't just do this on the fly. So again, most clients don't really expect to pay for your prep time, and your hardware and software investments, GoToMeeting and upgrading your computer, those kind of things are going to need to be wrapped into how much you're charging per hour. And unfortunately, you do need to figure out how to cover those non-paying clients. Now, it happens to us all. Hopefully not very often, but it does happen. So how are you going to cover those people who aren't going to pay? Now, when I'm doing consulting work, generally what I try to do, and in most cases, and especially until I get to know somebody and know that they're trustworthy, my work is done 50% to start, and when we hit an agreed upon middle point, they give me another quarter of the payment, and the final payment is due on completion, both parties satisfied. So there is a very small portion that is left that might not be paid, because it tends to be when people don't pay, it's that last payment. So I try to get as much up front as possible, and as you're consulting, you probably want to consider that as well. Danny has a really great business model, and I think that we can take this and roll with it as well, especially as we are doing our consulting work, or we're working with clients who are setting up eBay stores. People who are setting up eBay stores, oftentimes they don't need just that store. They need more follow-up support than just us setting up that store. And we want to, keep that business coming in and keep business coming back. So what Danny has figured out with some of her clients is that she has set up a retainer model where her clients pay her so much a month for her on retainer, and she supports them via emails and Skype and GoToMeeting. So she doesn't run to their business, but if they have a question, she will answer them, either via email, Skype, or GoToMeeting. There was a little bit of a, learning curve for the clients, but now one in particular I'm thinking of, they just they'll say, oh, let's get on GoToMeeting. I know, Danny, you can fix this right away. And so they really are very comfortable with using GoToMeeting. Now, Danny does not accumulate time, so this is a flat monthly fee. They have so many hours they can use, and if they don't use them, they don't get them next month. So it is a great way to keep your name in front of your clients and to keep a small residual income as you go forward. And it is definitely paid for our software, using the GoToMeeting software for Danny to have these clients. So it's a really great way to build your business. So time considerations as you're setting up. I may have alluded to this really a little bit earlier, but I do want to talk a little bit about time. Try to keep your sessions, if you're doing one-on-one sessions, to no more than an hour and a half. If it's going to be longer than that, break it into multiple sessions. When I consult with a client, I generally try to do like 3 one-hour sessions. Now, I try to spread them out over a series of weeks so they have some time between sessions. And I try not to go over an hour, but I do give each client up to an hour and a half. Now, you'll find that if you have about 45 minutes worth of material for your client, they're going to have enough questions going in that it's probably going to be about an hour and a half session. So try not to go over that. Now, be prepared to work on your client's schedule, West Coast versus East Coast. I've been working with a few people in Australia, and luckily for me, our time differences are so different that we're almost the same. They're like 20 hours ahead of me or something like that. So, they can talk in the morning and it's afternoon for me. So I don't have to stay up until 1 or 2 in the morning, but, there are some time considerations when you're working internationally. And I do want to remind you that this isn't something when you're consulting that you can just jump into the day of the call. Anybody who's done any of these kind of consultings know that you have to spend time before the day of the call. If you've ever done a store review with Janelle, she makes you give her information at least a week ahead of time. I always try to give myself at least a week, if not more, to spend some time reviewing my client's sites so that I can mull it over, take notes, and think about them before we get on the call. I mean, that's what they're paying us to do, really. We can't really bill for that time. We have to wrap it into that hourly wage, but we do have to spend a considerable amount of time thinking about our clients. Now, during that one-on-one call, this is a really hard thing to navigate and juggle, but understand that you don't want to give your client too much detail. Now, with selling on eBay, it's getting really, really complicated, and if you start piling on all that complication, you're going to overwhelm those people right away. So your job as the consultant is to figure out how much detail is enough until that next session, and don't overwhelm them. Now, do tell stories, because people do relate to stories. They learn from stories, but try to avoid going off on tangents and long-winded conversations. And don't be tempted, no matter how many times you've heard the same question. Don't cut your clients off in mid-sentence. They're paying you to listen to them. So even though you may know exactly what they're going to ask, don't cut them off. Let them ask the question and get it out before you come up with the answer. Even if you're an impatient type, You can spend that time mulling over what the right answer is for that client, because that's what they're paying you for, and they probably are going to have the same questions from client to client, but don't cut them off. This is their time. And as the consultant, remember you're the boss and you can keep control of the agenda. Now, I kind of wonder about this as being a woman and working with women. They're much easier when it comes to that. But when you're working with a male client, and you're a woman, sometimes you really do have to remind them that you're the boss, not them. I don't know if that's happened to too many other people, but I do think that we, no matter what, what the sex is, you have to remember that you are the consultant, you are the boss, and you get to control the agenda. But I don't want to say that it's that black and white. You can be flexible. So if your client has a burning question that just seems to be blocking going forward, and it's not on the schedule, you might want to address it, because they're not going to get anything out of that interview or that call or that talk if they can't get past that question. So you do need to keep control of the agenda, but you do need to understand that this is your client and they need your help, and they need you to be somewhat flexible. That is it in a nutshell. That's about all I have to say. So I'm going to look through the chat, see if you have any tips, or ask you if you have any tips. Thanks for that great tip again, Beth. It was the one she's heard about for billing is www.wiziq.com/teaching online. Yeah, Beth is absolutely right. She says listen to the real question, and that sometimes it's not exactly what they're articulating. What is the real question? Don't decide you know what they mean, what they meant to ask, and that's true. So don't cut them off. Listen to what they're asking. Sometimes you just think you know what they're going to ask, and it turns out to be totally different. That's a good tip. Sharon suggests that after the initial consult, to find out what the client, consult to find out what the client needs. Sharon always puts the quotation into a written agreement to proceed, so she gets it in writing before she moves on. And I actually agree with you there, Sharon. I've had people who say, oh, you don't need to give me anything written, we just want to go forward from here. And my response is usually, yeah, thank you for your trust in me, but it helps me to know where we're at with the process if I can put it down in writing, and it'll help us both. So yeah, Sharon, that's a good point. Having it in writing, even if it's not a super duper formal agreement, at least there's some written acknowledgement of what the expectations are. As for the question, Danny has a really good point. Repeat the question in your own words after your client asks it to you, to make sure that you understand. So repeat it back in your own words. That's absolutely. You'd be surprised. You think you understand what they're asking, and they're not asking that at all. So that's a great point. Yeah, yeah. Always state the payment terms and when the payment is due as well in your agreement. Yes, definitely. Yeah, Danny brings up another point about written agreements. She says that it makes you look so much more professional with a written agreement. Yeah, and once you've written one proposal, you just kind of, you've gotten the worst of the work done. You can use a lot of that material over and over again, and it makes you look really professional. On company letterhead too, yes. And with the software we have available, company letterhead's just a click away. All right. You all have been wonderful tonight. I want to say that Danny and I truly thank you all for the support we've had this year with the Web Seller Circle, and we truly hope that you have a wonderful holiday season. We're going to let you off the hook for a couple of weeks, but we will be back to finish up the presenter series after the first of the year. And we're going to talk about creating products, and you can sell them later on. If you have any questions, please, or any comments further, please know that we love to answer questions, and we will be available at the, we're not leaving town or anything, we will be at the Web Seller Circle on the forum. And we look forward to your input and hearing what you have to say there. So from us to you, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks, and have a happy holiday.